So I just got finished watching this video. It's not all wrong. There is obviously some information here that it's useful. So again, I'm not here to just say that everything this guy is saying is wrong, but there are some things that he's saying that is a bit misleading and a little bit misinforming. So I kind of wanted to correct that in case anybody actually takes this seriously. Uh, there are a couple points, three to be very specific, that are just wrong. His first point where he's talking about, I believe the first one was sharpness or something like that. Yeah, that's wrong. You can't just say that you turn your sharpness all the way down to 0 and that's fine. In most cases, especially on a Samsung, I saw he put up a table and a chart where he said turn Samsung TVs down to 0 sharpness. That introduces what's called under sharpening, and that happens a lot on Samsung TVs, especially during gaming. It's not a one size fits all, and to tell people to just disable it because it's fake sharpness is just wrong. You have things called sharpness test patterns that you use when you so-called calibrate for 14 years, was it? That you use to be able to attest and to ascertain information of ringing, haloing, things like that. The goal is very simple, making sure that you don't have any of that. As long as you don't, you can use the sharpness that you call fake sharpness because it actually helps fix the image. As I said in prior videos, filmmakers and all kinds of video creators use the kind of post-production processing to remove that external sharpness or that fake sharpness. A lot of people turn it down to 0. Some people put it back in post. Some people don't, to account for people who would when they're on a user or end user display. Again, using external sharpness or artificial sharpness as it's called in this video. So again, you would not know who is doing what. I mean, every creator is different, and when you're talking about the filmmaking process, it is very, very niche. The safest way is to use a sharpness test pattern and to make sure you're dialing in the sharpness correctly. That's the first wrong thing this calibrator of 14 years is telling you. Let's move on to the next point that he had so generously pointed out, and I believe the second point was noise reduction. To tell people to disable noise reduction because everything just looks plasticky is not necessarily true, because it really depends on how you use it. See, if you're watching a lot of older media like film grain stuff back from the DVD days, classic old stuff like the old classic Charlie Browns, or you're watching the classic Naruto that only comes on a DVD at this point in time. I mean, they're starting to make them on Blu-ray, but if you have already purchased these things like the old school Bleach or maybe old school Power Rangers or some old school X-Men, the 1990 version of it, you get what I'm saying. You're going to see substantial film grain. To get around that, you're going to need to use noise reduction. You don't have to go all out with it, but you definitely do need to use some form of it. In most cases, low on the sharpness or the noise reduction will get you where you need to be. So again, just telling people to turn it off is kind of useless, especially in Michael Bay movies like Transformers. The amount of disgusting film grain you're going to see, even at 0, is ridiculous, because some creators like film grain and they want their image to look like a 30-year-old image, like Vincent here. So again, it's kind of one of those things. Now, last but not least, his fourth point where he was talking about the motion processing and how it just makes everything look like a cheap handheld camera. This is subjective, but again, to tell people to turn it off, I think is counterproductive, especially on TVs like, for example, the Sony A90J. That is one of the worst TVs I've ever seen in the history of reviewing TVs ever for literally a Sony product. It's so choppy and so juddery, and the motion is horrible. And most people can attest to this. And if you think I'm joking and you own an A90J or a 2021 Sony TV, play the 2016 Jason Bourne movie. If you don't have it, run out, buy it, see it. And I'm telling you, that is the ultimate test for motion processing. And it's one of my cornerstone tests to see if a television is a good TV or not for motion. And I'm telling you right now, you're going to see so much smeary garbage all over the screen. It's just not going to look good. Now, that being said, at the end of the video, though, he kind of debunks the whole reason for this, the one picture mode to do it all tab, where he talks about this video being sponsored by the UHD Alliance. For those of you that don't understand why this is such a big deal, the UHD Alliance is basically a conglomeration of corporations. It's a big conglomerate effort, a big collaborative effort from Disney, Amazon, Hulu, all the people standing to make the most money and profit by creating one body, one authority, if you will, a one world government in the TV community, if you will, of standards and practices that they think you should follow. And they created Filmmaker mode. Now, I don't have to tell you, those of us who have seen it, if you've seen Filmmaker mode, it looks like dog shit. Vincent is sponsored by the people who created Filmmaker Mode and is telling you that Filmmaker Mode is actually the way you should be watching your TV 24 hours a day. It's already correct. You don't have to do anything. What if I were to tell you it was the one picture mode that does everything? Well, that's what your little purist here is telling you. So I wanted to kind of step in as an actual expert, an actual master calibrator that does take more into account than 30-year-old standards that has not changed in the last 30 years, regardless of our displays changing, and tell you that a few things this guy has been saying is outdated and needs updating, and those are definitely the items that need updating. If you have questions, comments, or concerns, you can put them down in the comment section down below. But I want to thank you guys so much for watching the #1 brand in honesty. Until the next video, don't believe a guy who's sponsored by the corporations looking to profit off of you.